For centuries, humans have been growing alongside our botanical brethren. Our histories have mixed and mingled to bring us modern medical marvels, faded folklore, and everything in between. Of course, in order to understand the plant, we have to start with its roots. I'm M. Grubner Gaddis, and this is Rooted. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Rooted, where this week I thought it would be kind of fun to just dig into one of my favorite sections of the show, which is florigraphy, or the Victorian language of flowers. I just love anything with hidden meanings and layers, which is why I love the mountain goat so much, and the added layers of petty dish just really make it all so much more fun for me. So without further ado, let's learn more about what this is, how it started, and where we can learn more to hopefully find a few examples of tea spilling through floral arrangements. So the first thing we're going to look at is kind of a quick blog post from interflora.co/uk, and I think they're just going to kind of give us some quick meanings. Alrighty, well, right off the bat, they're letting us know we can cross our goal of learning a new language for the year off, so go ahead, New Year's resolutions. Go down to the part where you promised yourself you're learning German or Japanese or Spanish or something. Go ahead, cross it off. We're learning florigraphy today. It kind of counts. Stick with your other goals, but slight win for us. Okay, so what is it? It's just a fancy name for the language of flowers. Specifically, it refers to the art of this, which is kind of where old-timey florists really would kind of come in. So people would know what they meant, but it was kind of up to florists to kind of guide your hand there. And they're explaining that some of this really comes down to the specific variety of flower and the color, and some even take on new meaning depending on the number that you're given. So, for example, they're saying if you gave someone just a single daffodil, that's really bad luck. But if you gave your friend a huge bouquet of daffodils, that's totally chill. So a quick history. Okay, so actually a lot of this comes back to the reign of Queen Victoria, shout out Queen. And it's because essentially members of the noble aristocracy and higher classes of people were essentially held to very strict rules of society and etiquette. So you weren't able to just go up to someone you thought was really cute and be like, hey, I think you're really cute, let's hang out some more. Or you're being really dumb and I don't like your dress. I can't believe you told Archduke Ferdinand I was going to say that. You can't really just go up and tell them that. So instead, people slowly started being like, well, if I can't say it out loud, I'm going to send her this batch of flowers and then she can decode it later. So it was kind of devised out of this need to be kind of sneaky. And then, okay, wow, there's even more that I didn't know. So a lot of times there would usually be a bundle of herbs that they would give and then just one flower. So it started kind of simple, right? It wasn't always this big, complicated, decodable bouquet. We started with just here's some rosemary and a rose because I think you're so beautiful. And then you would give that to someone who you thought was really pretty at the dance and see did she accept it? And then if she was ooh, I'm also into this, maybe you should ask my dad to court me, then she would hold the flower at heart level. If she held it down, it was I'm gonna pass. Not completely disinterested, but I need some more time to see if there's a better suitor that's coming along. And then if you were answering yes to a question, then the bouquet would be given in your right hand. And if you were saying no, you would accept it with your left. So if someone was can I ask your dad if I could marry you? If you were oh, left hand, that means absolutely not. So then they're kind of going into some of the different things. So typically a lot of the really common flowers we're going to get into today are roses, carnations are a big one, dahlias, tulips, peonies, and then there's a couple other really specific ones. But starting off, I feel roses are most commonly the ones that we think of, and they have the most kind of levels to them because there's so many different kinds of roses and colors. So they're actually starting off with numbers. So 1 rose is like love at first sight. So right, like we're back at the ball. I'm giving you a rose with rosemary because I think you're a cutie. 2 roses is like love and affection. So like things are heating up. Maybe we're being allowed to like sit in a room together while your mom and sister stare at us. And then 3, it's kind of given as a gift for like a 1-month anniversary. So like we're maybe like courting, but we're not quite married, or maybe we just got married, but you're like, see, we're still young and in love. And then 6 is you're like, I'm really trying to win you over, but I haven't quite gotten it yet. It's kind of like a super like on Tinder, I guess. And then 12 roses, like you're asking for marriage. 15 roses, you've kind of messed up, so you're like, oops, that was really bad, sorry. 24, you're kind of making a mockery of it, but you're telling someone like, I'm yours forever. I couldn't possibly be buying other girls' flowers. Look how many I'm giving you. 50 roses is like, you're trying really hard to be like, hello, everyone, look at me. I love this person. And 100 is that like, your love is essentially bountiful and it will last forever. Partially because I think this would literally cost like $1 million to do back then. So this was like crazy town to do 100. People probably weren't even really doing that. And then dahlias were really considered to be like, if you were getting married, a traditional choice would be dahlias because they're kind of said to be this forever bond. And it's a great sign of commitment. So these would typically not be something you'd be gifting to someone, but instead used in like actual wedding arrangements. And then we have tulips. They are kind of romantic, and it's said to kind of, so they bloom in the spring, right? Some of this also has to do with like the seasons. So tulips bloom in early spring, and so they're kind of meant to be like a first sign of love, but like a very deep, true love. And then we have carnations. So we did go over the meaning of these more in depth in our carnations episode, but like similarly to a lot of these colors, light red is like early love. So I like you. And then deep dark reds are usually a symbol of deep love and affection. So you wouldn't just give that to someone you have a crush on. This would be for like someone you are in love with. And then white is typically like pure love and good luck. So this is something you could gift to a non-romantic love interest, to just be like, you're my friend and I love you. Or like, I'm wishing you luck on your journey. And then pink is usually for moms. And then yellow typically means friendship. And this is where things get into kind of like heartbreak territory, because let's say you met someone at a ball, you guys danced a couple of times, but then you kind of decided after sleeping on it, like, oh, I don't really think we have a future, or like, oh, her dowry's too low. You might send yellow roses to someone to kind of be like, I had a really great time with you, but I'm only interested in being your friend. Which is like, it can be kind of nice if you're actually sending it to your friend, but oftentimes this was more or less like a letting them down easy. It's not you, it's me. And then we have pansies. Sometimes these were to be like a symbol of thoughtfulness, but you could also kind of like pair them with some other things and it might give like a slightly different meaning to it. Like, I've thought a lot about this and I just want to be friends. Or like sometimes you would send things to be like, I don't think you were being as thoughtful as you could have been, so you might send it there. Pansies also sometimes are meant to symbolize foolishness, just like Columbine is. So you might gift like Columbine and pansies if, let's say, a male suitor like sent you yellow roses, maybe you send back Columbine and pansies to be like, you're an idiot if you don't see what you had. At this time, flowers weren't just meant for like love and friendship. You would also gift them to represent sympathy. So poppies would be a gift you might give someone in remembrance of a loved one. This ties back to the war, and we do talk about that quite a bit on our poppies episode, so that's a good one to check out for that. But hyacinth also, and we did touch on this with hyacinth as well, but essentially like it's tied to kind of grieving the loss of a lover, because hyacinth bloomed when a Greek god lost his lover. And so the god kind of made this flower, hyacinth, bloom from his blood. And so you might gift this to someone who has like lost a spouse. And then there's also lilies, especially white lilies, are kind of meant to convey a sort of like purity and innocence about the soul. So when you gift those to a grieving family, back then essentially what you were saying was like, I know your loved one is going to heaven, or like, I know they're in a better place. And then moving on to our next article, this is just kind of like a little graphic that kind of gives some of the other ones, kind of the most common bouquet pairings. A lot of these are going to be like single flowers, but I think it's a helpful kind of thing to think through what the bouquets would be. So you could kind of mix and match this. So you could send like some yellow daisies, and that means like I'm gonna come soon. So like I'm intending to come over to probably ask you a question. There's Canterbury bells, which means like I got your letter or like message received. You could have iris for like I'm sending a message, as in like a message on behalf of someone else, or maybe like expect to hear from me. Apple blossom would probably be sent in a situation where maybe there's like multiple suitors or something, where you're saying like I prefer you above everyone else. So like I got your bouquet, I'm rooting for you. You might send poppies in response. If you're not sending poppies for a funeral arrangement, it could be in response to someone's advance towards you, as in like I'm not free. And there's huge, like, whole dedicated books that I think are super interesting. Obviously, this is a podcast, so it's probably not super interesting to hear about, but I'll be sure to link a few of them so that you guys can kind of go through and see, like, what do your favorite flowers mean? Or would they have been sent for any kind of specific message? Is there something you want to send a message to someone with a flower? And then some of these were like also interesting because they would only make sense in bouquets. So those kinds of things are like hydrangeas. You might send that to someone to say they're heartless. Azaleas mean like take care of yourself. A buttercup if you think someone's childish. Basil literally means I hate you. So if you were like giving someone a rose but it's wrapped in basil, ouch. Dill is lust. And a striped carnation just means like absolutely not. So you might send that back to someone. There's oleander, which is a warning. We haven't talked about oleander on the show yet, but oleander is very poisonous. So you would probably send this to someone if you think someone has like bad intentions, or you know someone's being courted by a man you think has bad intentions. And then there's birdsfoot trefoil, which is a really fun wild flower that I think we'll talk about eventually, but I just love that it means like this is the flower you give if you're trying to be passive aggressive. So like if I want to really drive home that I meant what I said, I'm putting together a super passive aggressive bouquet and I'm sticking a bunch of these bad boys in there to be like, you really pissed me off and I want you to know I mean it. Or maybe I'm secretly enclosing like one and then sending you my petty ass bouquet and then being like, I don't know what you're talking about. Why would I say that? And then if they pull that out, you say, I didn't put that in there. And then everyone believes that you're just being so sweet and nice, but really you're being horrible. Love that. And like I said, I'll be sure to link this one because it's a bunch of like book clippings. So I think it does like a good job of really illustrating it, but obviously it's not really lending itself super well to podcasting. Let's dig into a little bit of the art history behind florigraphy. Okay, so this is also giving us some cultural context. And for centuries, it says women typically utilize flowers to send secret messages to their lovers, friends, and enemies without interference of family members or guards. So again, this is back in a time where if you were of a social status to be sending people flowers, you also had to be very careful about what you said to anyone in public. And as this started getting popular, by 1810, we did have literal flower dictionaries that explained the correlation, and it was a kind of code. So you would you'd get your bouquet and you'd grab your little book to decode it. I kind of feel like we should bring it back. Like, I would love nothing more than to get a flower arrangement and then immediately solve a puzzle. I think that sounds ideal. Why are we not doing that anymore? The 18% of men who listen to this podcast and all you ladies out there, I hope we're all taking notes. Valentine's Day is coming up. So also it wasn't just flowers. And also they like to point out some of this actually comes from mythology, some of the meaning, and some of it comes from their Latin root names, and some of them are just completely made up, which I kind of love. I think we should make up our own code. Let's do that too. So they give an example here that says leafy cabbage greens kind of look like cash. So cabbages became a symbol of wealth and profit. And dill just randomly was deemed lust. Like, if you have been doing mental backflips trying to figure that one out since we talked about it, you can stop. It was random. Okay. And now it's explaining that oftentimes, especially for like pre-Ralphites, which is a group of 19th century English painters and poets, they were like super inspired by 15th century Italian art, but they really wanted to find ways to enhance the meaning of those kind of paintings. So what they would do is they would really put a high attention to botany and the language of flowers. And so what you end up with is these like really beautiful portraits of ladies with a huge flower behind them. And what you're meant to do is like look at that woman, and then they've painted that woman to have the characteristics that they felt at that time kind of reflected the meaning of the flower. So the example they give is kind of hilarious and rude. But essentially it's sunflower, and the word is haughtiness. So they've painted this lady, and they're kind of essentially calling her a trollop, which is a little bit rude, but you know what? I honestly think she looks great. And so this would be kind of a fun thing if you were going to like an art museum or something, and you know they have a bunch of Victorian art. It might be a kind of fun exercise to do to kind of learn some floral language, or just like print out a quick guide and then go look at the art and see what flowers they're choosing to put in there, and then reading the descriptions to see like what's the historical context and do these flowers match that. And then just one more here. Okay, so a more comprehensive color guide, and then I think I'll go ahead and kind of wrap it up for you. So red flowers are usually passion, love, affection. Pink is like grace, joy, innocence, and often mom. And then there's yellow flowers, which is like happiness, friendship, joy, that kind of thing. And then white for purity, humility, and innocence. And then blue is usually seen as like kind of, let's use blue roses, for example. If you get a blue rose, it kind of means like, I don't love you. Like, I thought I could, but I don't. So it kind of inverses what the meaning was supposed to be. Kind of like how green carnations are like, I'm gay and I'm hoping you are. Blue is like, sorry if I sent you mixed signals, but I definitely don't feel that way about you. So yeah, I think that kind of wraps us up. Like I said, this is a very complicated topic, and I feel like it's maybe not the best to do for a podcast. But it's definitely my favorite aspect of the show. We cover this in literally any episode I can shoehorn it into, so it's a good one to be on the lookout for, and I'll have the links below to those other articles if you'd like to kind of explore for yourself. I hope that with Valentine's Day approaching, you are all taking the time to overanalyze every single floral arrangement that is sent to you, anyone you know, or even that random lady at the office. And I hope it brings you so much joy as you and I all continue to decipher the secret and maybe non-intended meanings behind floral arrangements. That's all I've got for this week, but I'll catch you in the next one.
Until next time, be kind to yourselves, be kind to the earth, and just like a plant, drink your water. If you liked the show, please subscribe and consider leaving us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you listen. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at rooted.pod. We're finally updating regularly on YouTube at rooted.podcast, and you can check out our website, rootedpod.com, for transcripts, updates, merch, and so much more. The show is written, produced, and hosted by me. I'm Grebner Gaddis, edited by Kat Fren of Fren Diagram, and our theme music was written and produced by Eric Cluxon. Rooted is a Henbane Media LLC production.